How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here. Welcome back to another video. So today it's time to do a little bit of a tier list for the professions in the War Within. We have spent way too much time playing around with these on the beta over the last few months. I am recording this live on stream, so I'm going to have the assistance of both Team YouTube and Team Twitch to agree with me, disagree with me, tell me why I'm wrong. You guys can feel free to do so in the comment section down below as well. We should probably set some ground rules for this. I think if we go purely on the profitability, I don't know. Do we go profitability or do we go fun? Because I think the choice here would be very different depending on which way we go. I think we should probably focus mostly on the profitability factor because, well, if you're watching this, you're probably a goblin and you're trying to make some gold, right? Everybody screaming in chat, profit. All right, of course. Okay, we'll go the profitability route. Should we start at the beginning and work our way through, shall we? Alchemy. Alchemy seems to be the first one. Alchemy has changed a lot. Alchemy having thaumaturgy, making blasphemites, undergone an awful lot of changes. I am going to find alchemy very difficult to not put either S or A tier. It's got to be up there. Alchemy is absolutely definitely up there. Omega S. Well, it depends for me. It would have been S tier. It would have been S tier if blasphemites had any form of limitation. The fact that you can technically mass produce blasphemites, I don't think is going to make them as valuable if we are going to go the profitability route. What I would say though is the discovery system, the recycling system, the actual design of alchemy, I think it's really good. I think it's really good. S tier because of the remix alts churning out blasphemite factories. I think it has got to be S tier, hasn't it? Alchemy is so good from all angles, from all direction. Going to be good for alt armies. If you choose to go potions or you choose to go flasks, you have a long journey ahead of you that should, in theory, be profitable all the same. Thaumaturgy and blasphemite making is not necessarily been... It started one way and is ended in a very different way, but I still think there's lots of gold to be made. I mean, I think the unanimous decision seems to be S tier for alchemy, so we'll go with that. Archeology. Well, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. Doesn't exist. Blacksmithing. Blacksmithing. What do we think about blacksmithing then? Blacksmithing is... I think alloys are going to be pretty good. Alloys have got a lot of potential, I think. Just crafting the intermediates. I think it's going to be a really good way for people to use characters that aren't fully min-maxed. I think if you focus your blacksmiths into characters that aren't fully min-maxed, go the alloy route. Throw some concentration at making some of the alloys and sell those alloys on to the people that must have the best gear, best weapons. I think the crafting side of blacksmithing, predominantly because of weapons, has to put it pretty high. I'm thinking blacksmithing has got to be an A tier profession, really. I think it's got to be up there. I think blacksmithing. I would have liked blacksmithing to have had a few more fun things. There's not so much fun stuff with blacksmithing. This is going to be a common thing for all of them, actually. Like, the fun element of professions is nowhere near as strong this time. We've got hardly any toys, hardly any, like, fun cosmetic-y stuff. Very, very little of that this expansion. Here's to hoping that in 11.1, 11.2... if they add extra stuff, they add some more of the fun back into it, because I think it might need it. But I'm pretty sure blacksmithing is going to be a good one. You're going to make a lot of gold with blacksmithing, I think. Alloys. What else have we got? Hang on. This is why we are actually here, so I can quickly refresh my memory of exactly what recipes blacksmithing have and don't have. We can quickly take a little bit of a look at the list here, can't we, and see. The ever-burning ignition is actually... it looks as if it could be really cool. This is a buff, but I really don't think you're going to put any knowledge points into getting this any good anytime soon. Smelting is going to be good. There's definitely no gold making with this. Not short term anyway. You make a bunch of armor, you make a bunch of weapons. The embellished gear, it's 50-50, isn't it? If it ends up on a BIS list, it's incredible. Oh my god, I forgot the amount of profession equipment that they make. Yeah, blacksmithing is easy S tier. Easy No, we'll leave it A because it's not better than alchemy. We'll leave it A because it's not better than alchemy. I still think alchemy is better. Yeah, we can shuffle these around if we need to be. It's a solid A. It's a mid-tier solid A. Cooking. Cooking. I think cooking is a sleeper, you know. I think cooking is a sleeper profession. I think people won't pay attention to cooking all that much because it's usually bad. But being a sleeper all the same, it's not going to be the thing that most people are going to prioritize, I don't think. Mostly because it still requires you to like spend artisan security on tools and stuff, which your top tier crafters, people who are trying to go for the best primary professions, are basically going to ignore cooking, which might leave the door wide open for somebody to come and just, you know, harvest gold from cooking. Cooking works in a pyramid style way. You make a bunch of basic stuff, then you take those basic cooking products and you put them into like middle-sized meals, and then you take those middle-sized meals and build them into something else before you eventually put it all together to make a single feast. I think in my little first look video I called it a sort of a Russian pyramid style profession. I think cooking is going to be pretty good. It's a sleeper build, but I don't think it's going to overtake blacksmithing, so I think it's probably a solid B. Most often I tend to think that the secondary professions are usually meh, but I think they've done enough with this to make it quite cool. Hearty meals is also an interesting one. Let me showcase hearty meals. Give me cooking real quick. We showcase hearty meals on this. You're going to be able to... Hearty food, here we go. You're going to be able to take 5 pieces of food and condense it into one. Basically allows it to persist through death. Kind of like your alchemical flavor pocket embellishment in Dragonflight. This time round, you can just do it yourself. You do have to smush quite a lot of food together to make one that persists through death, but if you are progressing, this could be a really cool aspect to cooking, I think. You're not selling them, no, so it's not strictly great from a gold making perspective, other than the fact that the intermediate crafts might be quite profitable because some people will just want to buy a whole bunch of the basic ones before turning them into their hearty food. So there is still quite good reason why people won't go all the way and build everything. They'll just buy the main food that they need and then smush it together. It could mean that you end up selling a few times more food than you would before. I think cooking's a B. Cooking's a B, I think. I suspect that there is better out there, but I also don't suspect it's scraping the barrel. I think it's going to be pretty good. Work orderable? No, nothing work orders with cooking. Not to my understanding. You'll be able to craft it all, sell it up on the auction house. If you want to make the hearty food, you can buy a bunch of it, or you can do the multi-step process. That multi-step process is what's going to build some profit into it. Every level, every step of the process, you should be able to squeeze in a bit of profit, I reckon. Meaning those that get good at cooking might actually be able to make more than 2 gold a time. Who knows? Right, should we move on to enchanting then? Enchanting. Ooh, this is 50-50. I have said good things. I have also said bad things about Enchanting. They are sticking to the exact same concept that they had in Dragonflight, where sure, you're going to make a bunch of enchants and everybody wants enchants, but at the same time, the profession doesn't feel very fun. You're going to be the craft Andy again. Crest Andy, I should say. You're going to be responsible for making everybody's enchanted crests, which are work orders. Work orders are always 50-50 on a profitability. Just the fact that Enchanting is an artisan acuity generator on crack makes it S tier. Enchanting has glimmers this time round. Glimmers are cosmetic items, and it has thousands of the damn things. This is what people in chat are alluding to. Let me see if I can show you very quickly the glimmers. Just to highlight this in a little bit more detail. Enchanting. So, glimmers are these, look. Not glimmers, sorry. Gleeful glamours, or however the hell you pronounce this. Whatever these things are. Yeah, there's loads of these. It allows you to transform into whatever you want to transform into. My suspicion, though, is the fact that they use 2 rare gathered materials and a bunch of storm dust. Like, most players are not going to buy much of this. I don't think anybody's really going to be... Like, cosmetic changing things will always see a steady amount of sales. But I also never think it's going to be super duper mega profitable. Simply because... simply because it's not player power. People spend all of their gold on player power. It's only later on in the expansion where cosmetics, transmog, that sort of stuff starts to take a bigger chunk of people's focus. These are going to be really good for crafting orders. These are going to be good for your patron orders. You can see they come here. So if patron orders end up being mission table-esque, maybe you should be able to easily fill your patron orders with enchanting, crafting all of these things. I'm not sure. Other than those, though, it's pretty much the same. We make a handful of enchants for the different slots. Really not much has changed. Enchanting is also making the profession tool enchantments again. I'm almost convinced Algari Resourcefulness is basically the only one that's ever going to sell. Resourcefulness and Perception. These two will sell, make a bunch of gold. The others maybe not so much. Of course, weapon enchants. Weapon enchants are massive, massive business at the beginning. Okay, let's start giving it its rank. Enchanting's B. It would be C. I'd be putting Enchanting in C if it wasn't for the fact that you can make so much gold in Season 1 off the weapon enchants. It's going to be outrageous. New to the War Within is that enchanting materials have quality. And most other materials in the game, you can take quality 1 and convert it into quality 2. You can take quality 2 and convert it into quality 3. You can't do that with enchanting materials. This means quality 3 enchanting materials, and in turn, the very best quality 3 enchants. Stupid money. Be prepared for them to be stupid money. If you must enchant your gear with quality 3 enchants, get ready to take out a small loan to be able to afford it. That's the only reason it's a B and not a C for me. That early season potential to make gold is going to be wild. Actually wild. Value going into heavy into disenchanting. Yeah, there's some really good early expansion possibilities. Cooking is still better though. I still think cooking is better. Cooking is better because cooking will last the expansion. Cooking will last the expansion, yet Enchanting, I think, is going to be very Season 1 heavy, whilst all of the Quality 3 materials are still mental expensive. The from a goal making perspective, it's very short term. Into Season 2, into Season 3, it's going to be 1% profit margins on crafting all of this stuff, I suspect. Soon as people can guarantee things at Quality 3, start using Quality 2 materials plus concentration to make Quality 3 consistently. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that being there. Let's move on, though. Let's move on. Let's go to engineering. Oh, engineering. This has been the talk of the town. If you have spent any time at all in my Discord over the last couple of months, you'll have noticed that you can't go 20 minutes without somebody talking about flipping pilfering. Engineering, mostly because of the mount. The mount is the only thing that is giving it any saving grace whatsoever. If it wasn't for the mount, it'd be E. But the mount is a thing. We have to bear in mind the mount is a thing. There is a new mount for engineering, which is... You can technically buy all the components off a vendor, but the sum total for all of those components is 3.1 million. 3.1 million gold for a crafting mount is bananas. Where is the mount? Crowd Pummeler 230. This is the fella. This dude is crafted, and who doesn't love a crafted mount? Who doesn't love a crafted mount? There's never been a scenario in the game where a crafted mount hasn't been a steady, consistent seller. And I can't imagine this will be any different. The only thing that's going to scare some people is its potential price tag. The potential price tag of 3.1 million will put some people off. But pilfering. Pilfering is a thing. This is going to make some people very rich. This is going to make some people very rich. You basically take components made with engineering and you smush them down and you pray that you get the mount components out the back of it. You can then either sell the mount components or you can save them and then slowly but surely build those mounts and then sell the mounts. I have a suspicion this could be a bit of a money printer. I hate to say it. I think it is a bit of a money printer. There's some weird opportunities here because you don't have to use the War Within parts. A lot of these parts are past expansion parts. This in itself might regenerate past expansion farming, especially mining. Even as far back as vanilla stuff. A handful of copper bolts, bronze tube, pretty much any part that an engineer has ever made can be pilfered. And this is a bit of a minefield for people to figure out what the optimal thing is to pilfer. But there are already people way ahead of the game on this. And I think there is some real money to be made if you can do the maths and figure this out. And not only because it will also reinvigorate past expansion crafting, but just because it's just kind of fun to see what people come up with this. I think engineering doesn't really have much else other than this mount, because it's still very utility. Engineering wouldn't be any more than a C, but I'm actually going to say because of the mount, I think it's a high B. It's definitely not in the same league as blacksmithing, because blacksmithing is directly selling people player power. Blacksmithing, selling people player power, selling people their best in slot gear, plate, weapons, makes it better. But I think engineering is a high B. Does anybody... What's the consensus? Are we saying high... What are we thinking? I think high B is fair for engineering. It's going to be really good with a mount. It doesn't do much else, though. Really don't think there's going to be a big enough market for a 4 million mount that has no value other than being a number. Well, 3.1 million gold is the ceiling. You ain't going to see it sell for more. You'll steadily see it being sold for less. As more and more people figure out how to generate the mount parts using the different parts from different expansions, the price will steadily decline on it. 3.1 million is the absolute top. Is it better than cooking? Even though it's a one-trick pony? It's better than cooking, I think. Mostly because it's a big ticket item. Cooking is going to be mass. Cooking is the Walmart approach. Stack it high, sell it cheap, sell a lot of it. Or Costco chickens. Costco chickens is the analogy I'll use for cooking. Whereas the mounts, it's going to be big ticket items. You might not sell many of them, but you should make a reasonable profit, I think, if and as and when you do. But it is a one-trick pony. I think that's fair. I think B's fair. I think B's fair. I'm going to go with B. First aid, I guess that goes down here as well. Whoops. Fishing. 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 Fishing synergizes really well with cooking, like it always does. Fishing is another one that is fishing is another one similar to enchanting for me, that it's only really going to be good in the first couple of weeks, honestly. It's really not going to be any it's going to be a nothing burger outside the first couple of weeks. One thing people should know about fishing is you can fish up Dark Moon cards. Being able to fish up Dark Moon cards will give it some early value. But scribes, which we will talk to in a minute, scribes are also able to farm up Dark Moon cards. So I think the emphasis will be taken off fishing. Outside of that, you're going to be selling the fishing to the cooks, who are then ultimately using it. So I can't imagine that fishing can ever be better than that. I find it hard to put fishing anywhere but sea. It's got a couple of interesting mechanics. They have tweaked it and tuned it a little bit from Dragonflight. But I'm not convinced that it does anything particularly special this time round. If it didn't have the ability to allow you to fish up Dark Moon cards, I think it'd be D. So it's entirely balanced on Dark Moon cards being worth something. Otherwise, you're just casting your rod, eh? Algari Weaver line. Should we talk about Algari Weaver line, I suppose, just to justify its position at sea? Tailors make an item called Algari Weaver line. It's a special fishing line for your fishing rod, and you can loot perception and skill boosts for your fishing. It's just going to be a 20-hour grind to get them all, but once you've got them all, you'll be able to fish everywhere. I don't know. It's pretty mid-tier, I think. We're going to leave it. Yeah. Quick ad break for 2 minutes, boys and girls. The wife's just come to say hi. I'll be back in 2. I interrupt this tier list to bring you a message from our sponsor. Hey! My Goblin Guide to the War Within is now finished, or as finished as it will be for the purpose of launch. This is going to give you a little bit of information to every single crafting profession, and even some basic information on the gathering professions going into the War Within. Knowledge points, artisans' acuity gains, leveling guides, the whole shebang. This is about a 360-page document detailing everything I could possibly think of to give you information about for all of the different professions going into the War Within. The conclusion of probably about 400 hours of testing. This is available to my gold goblins over on Patreon, and I personally am pretty proud of it, so I thought I'd bring you the opportunity to have a copy of this yourselves. There's a link in the description down below. Check it out if you are interested, and thank you to all of my existing patrons, and thank you to anybody that considers becoming one today. Back to the tier list. Peace! Okay, we're back. We're good. We're good. I was trying to justify fishing being anything better than sea, wasn't I? And I don't think I can. I think fishing is going to have to be a sea. We've got our first gathering profession. Ooh, this is where it starts to get interesting, you know. This is our first gathering profession, Herbalism. Hmm. Hmm. For those who are playing catch up with the War Within, herbalism and mining, and in turn skinning, because of course that is a gathering profession, we'll get to that in a minute, they have undergone some significant changes to the quality of the materials you pick up. In Dragonflight, you could very quickly pick up quality 3 materials, and you'd mostly pick up quality 3 materials. Basically meaning that it crushed the value of everything super duper mega fast. I don't think that's going to happen anywhere near as fast in the War Within. I think you're going to have to spend weeks and weeks and weeks of consistent gathering before you are getting any reasonable amount of quality 3 materials. Which means, if you stick with it, you are going to make money. I think you are going to have a lot of success with gathering this time. It is absolutely A tier. The question is does it get priority over blacksmithing, which is making people's best in slot mythic weapons potentially? You craft somebody their best in slot mythic weapon, and you are likely to be able to charge them, you know, either you're going to get a really handsome tip, or resource procs alone on expensive alloys is going to make you pretty rich. That said, though, gathering, I have a suspicion that gathering is going to be a big money maker. Big money. Tips are huge, and if you do it enough and you have a big enough clientele, if you're on a big enough server, tips can really rack up quickly. But farming work orders, it's hard work, isn't it? Farming work orders, spamming trade chat, dealing with people consistently. There has to be something to be said for the relaxed nature of flying around picking up herbs and ore. And at the same time, those quality 3 materials are going to be expensive, and I think they're going to be expensive for a while. I'm pretty convinced that herbalism and mining are going to be really good. I think I'm going to wombo combo this. Herbalism gets top spot, though. Herbalism gets top spot, I think, and that is only because, if we throw mining in the mix here as well, to be fair, herbalism and mining are very comparable, but I do think that herbalism edges it outside of mining. Herbalism is going to be slightly better, simply because alchemy, right? The alchemists out there are going to have such a strong demand for the quality 3 herbs for such a long time. Without going into too much detail, people are not going to be guaranteeing quality 3 potions and flasks for, in some cases, months. This is going to put such a heavy requirement on quality 3 herbs, it's ridiculous. So, considering alchemy is S tier, herbalism has to be pretty close behind it. Of course, herbalism supplies alchemists. Alchemists can't make money if there's no herbs knocking about. But if you are selling shovels in a gold rush, you are going to make a packet. Mining, on the other hand, you only have 3 different types of ore, and then you have null stones. Jewelcrafters are probably not going to be prospecting null stones, meaning null stones are mostly going to be used alongside blasphemites, for things like meta gems, and for sockets on gear. You're going to find probably rarer materials with mining. I think null stones will be more expensive, but you'll end up being able to sell so many herbs. You'll be able to sell so many herbs. I'm pretty safe in saying that I think herbalism edges it out above mining for me. Herbs is also less annoying than mining. You're talking about the dynamite nodes. People hate those nodes. I haven't got footage of this to hand, but there's a mining node that's wrapped with dynamite, and it's incredibly annoying to try and mine the damn thing, because if you stand in the wrong spot, it blows you up. Yeah, the easy mines, yeah, which are definitely not easy. You'll find those when the expansion goes live. Okay, right. Next on our list, we have good old Inscription. Good old Inscription. Inscription is terrible. It's actually terrible. Poor Inscription. Inscription has had everything stripped from it. Inscription doesn't do glyphs. Inscription, it doesn't do glyphs. It's like, its entire... No Dark Moon cards. You don't craft Dark Moon cards. It's not even going to be super profitable at the beginning, I think. Inscription, it's just had all of the fun, and in turn, a lot of the profit sucked from it, in my opinion. Let's take a... Just to try and, you know, put some... Just to try and ever so quickly put some actual science to this a little bit. Let's take a look at Inscription, see what it actually does have. Just to see if there's anything, anything lurking in the shadows. Inks, 2 inks this time. Milling, ink making, and in turn, reagent crafting. You might see some value from. Mostly because it's laborious, and unless you specialize into it, you're bad at it. So you'll be selling these materials to other scribes quite comfortably. But there's potentially some gold being like just a good miller and a good ink crafter. We don't make Dark Moon cards. Instead, we are going to take Dark Moon cards, mix them with an ink to make a different version of a Dark Moon card. Take 2 Dark Moon cards and turn it into 1, basically. Meaning that you can kind of shuffle Dark Moon cards to the right decks, potentially. Not really going to be great for gold making, I don't think, unfortunately. We don't make the decks, but we do take the decks and we smush them into optional crafting reagents. Now, if these land on BIS lists, all of a sudden Inscription's S tier. But I'm not convinced these are going to sit on BIS lists. I think most people have said that the Dark Moon cards are pretty mid-tier as sort of trinket powers. Of course, putting them on a sigil, making it an optional reagent, means you can put the ability on any one of your pieces of gear. But it is going to take one of your 2 embellished slots. So we need the Sims before we know if they're going to be profitable. Contracts with account-wide stuff with contracts. 25 inks to make a contract. I think they've deliberately tried to make these expensive. You're only going to use 1 contract at a time, and of course they're warband wide this time, meaning that you're probably not going to sell as many contracts as you would previously, which is why they've tried to make them significantly more expensive. I do kind of worry that they've made them so expensive that people might not bother though, because the reward they give you is very slim. And with warbands, you are only going to be grinding the rep once. So outside of Season 1, probably not going to sell many of these. So there's not going to be much gold to be had from contracts, I don't believe. Missives, yeah, you'll sell them. You'll sell them all day long. But they're usually, once again, going to be pretty cheap. And when there's not many other options, it's going to be super competitive, I think. Making them at quality 3 is no easy task, though, by the way. So maybe there's some short-term profits to be had in Inscription. You make the books. Books are going to be big business Season 1. You'll harvest tips. Small tips. If you can get some, obviously you are limited to public orders, but if you can get in a good guild, craft your books for all of the crafters in your guild, there'll be a steady supply of business there for sure. Stack your resourcefulness, harvest some freebies off the orders. Vantis runes are Vantis runes. Steady, consistent seller, but it's a 1 item. It's a 1-trick pony in that regard. These are always super competitive. Yeah, I'm worried about Inscription. I'm worried all of the fun has been stripped from it. I'm pretty convinced that all the fun has been stripped. No glyphs, no fancy cosmetic-y stuff. Unfortunately, sorry Inscription. If you're a long-time scribe out there, I feel sorry for you. Inscription is not looking good. Not by my perspective, anyway. There'll be gold to be made. Just not much. Let's look at jewelcrafting. A personal favourite of mine. So I kind of have to... I have to warn you, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to jewelcrafting. Because it's a favourite of mine. I think jewelcrafting's good. I don't know if jewelcrafting is as good as it has been, though. Jewelcrafting is kind of like 4 professions in one. Oh, it's definitely got a lot of options. You can go the prospecting route. You can go the actual gem cutting route. You can go the the ring and the necklace route, if that so happens to work. There's 3 super defined routes. Plus, of course, you've also got like a bunch of profession tools that jewelcrafting can make also. Jewelcrafting does have a lot of options. Jewelcrafting also makes the vials for alchemy. So you kind of can't lose as a jewelcrafter. The question is, it's A tier, by the way. Jewelcrafting is absolutely A tier. The question is it better or is it worse than blacksmithing? It's situational for me. If you do work orders, if you enjoy work orders, and if you're on a server where there's an awful lot of work orders to be had, blacksmithing's going to make you buckets of gold. Because you're going to be crafting plate gear and you're going to be selling weapons to everybody. Jewelcrafting, though, allows you to play on the region-wide auction house a lot more. The margins are smaller, but you can sell an awful lot more.
Is that your wallet? You're just glad to see me. Both, I hope.
Mr. Norton, thank you very much for the sub, by the way. I appreciate it. Anything that supplies the S-tier professions automatically just works. Yeah, it has to be. Because it's region-wide, I think it pushes blacksmithing out. I think it sits above blacksmithing. I think it sits above blacksmithing purely because prospecting is going to be super lucrative if you heavily spec into it and know the numbers. Prospecting's a maths game, and if you're good at maths, you'll win. And everything you're selling is on the region-wide auction house. So you sell everything instantly. Boom, out the door. It only pushes blacksmithing out because there is a bit of randomness with public orders, with crafting gear. But when you're crafting people's two-handed weapons, it's still very good. Still very good. What do I mean when I say it's a maths game? It's all about knowing the prospecting rates. With prospecting, you kind of have to know that if I buy this much ore, you have to know before you prospect it what you're going to get. That's the real trick with prospecting. If you have enough data to understand that if I buy 1,000 ore, I should get these gems and these materials, which will be worth this. So then it's simple maths. It's like, well, what does this cost and what does this make me? As long as this number's bigger than this number, you win. And you can just keep doing it. Repeatedly keep doing it until there's no profit left. I've always loved jewelcrafting because of prospecting. Over the years, it has made me tens of millions of gold quite easily. But anyway, let's move on because I don't want this tier list to end up being 3 hours long. Leatherworking. Leatherworking's fun because it's basically 2 professions. Because, of course, it makes all the mail gear and it makes all the leather gear. Armor kits is also potentially going to be big. It's a prime candidate for altar armies as well. Just because how many different spec builds you could drive towards initially. Leatherworking is a prime candidate for altar armies. Not to mention, the intermediate materials have been made a little bit easier. So in terms of gold making, early days, if you focus on making the intermediates for leatherworking, there's a lot of opportunity there. Oh, there's some controversy in the chat. Some people are saying S, while some people are saying C tier. Heavily work order orientated, and because hides are going to be easier to make, they might be less gold. There is logic there. I'm going to say leatherworking's a high B. I don't think it pushes itself into A tier. Just because I definitely think that blacksmithing and jewelcrafting are better. Blacksmithing making weapons alone, just like, it's got so much potential. I think it's high B. I think it's top tier. I think it pushes out engineering for sure, because engineering's a one-trick pony. Let's just have a quick sanity check with leatherworking. One thing I would say about leatherworking is that yes, it is very, very work order focused.
Walk with the earth, mother.
Armor kits, good business. Drums, potentially. You're never going to make a huge amount of gold off drums, but you can sell them in just disgusting quantities. And then there's lots of gear that could be good. Yeah, leatherworking's a bit difficult because it could be really good or it could be dead. It's entirely balanced on whether it sits on people's BIS lists. This though, this is value. Leatherworking also makes an awful lot of the profession equipment. When you're looking at the top tier profession equipment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different pieces of profession gear. Yeah, okay. Leatherworking doesn't have much flavor. It doesn't have much fun. But I do think leatherworking is just solid. If it's just solid and maybe not incredible, it has to be B tier, doesn't it, really? It has to be. Because it's got the armor kits and it's got the profession tools, in my opinion, puts it above blacksmithing. Do I think it's better than blacksmithing because of that? Blacksmithing also makes a bunch of profession tools, though. No, I'm happy with it being a high B. It's pretty mid-tier, honestly. It's pretty middle of the run, I think, leatherworking. It doesn't do anything super special, but it's only going to take 1 or 2 pieces of crafted gear to hit a BIS list for it to do really well for players, I think. Which, if you're happy to do work orders, I think you'll be fine. Let's look at skinning then. The last gathering profession. Now, considering this is where leatherworking is, you have to then consider that skinning is the profession that provides leatherworking with its materials. There is one other thing. There's one other thing about skinning, in that it is absolutely a prime candidate for alt armies. Now, I don't know how much value I want to put on that. It's got really good long-term value. The elusive creature baits, elusive creature baiting is going to mean you're going to need to be level 80 on your skinner, but we saw a good few times in Dragonflight that those rare materials just for some reason go to the moon. Whenever a crafted item used one of those rare skinning materials, the price went crazy, and if you had a bunch of skinners ready to take advantage of that, you were making mad money. So it's situational again. It's situational again. Do we think it's A tier? It's better than leatherworking, which is odd considering it supplies leatherworking with its materials, but because it can stand on its own 2 feet and it's going to be a good candidate for alt armies, I think skinning is probably A tier. The question is where in the run is it? Where in the run is it? Is it better than blacksmithing? Is skinning going to be better than blacksmithing? 2x4 farm for skinning will kill skinning. It might. It might. I don't think it's better than either Jewelcrafting or Blacksmithing for profitability. It's really good for alt armies, but it's a small potential each and every day. It's a guaranteed basic universal income with your skinning. Plus, there's a little thing with skinning called sharpen your knife, which it allows you to stack it up to 3 times once you've spec'd into it. What it will basically allow you to do is log in, kill 3 mobs, and loot 3 rare hides, which it only emphasizes the alt army-ness of it. I think it goes above blacksmithing, you know. I'm going to go out on a limb and put it above blacksmithing, just because it's going to be consistent. It's going to be consistent all the way through. Blacksmithing is going to rely on crafted gear sitting on BIS lists, and it's going to rely on work orders, which is a bit of randomness. Skinning, you're going to log in and you're going to make money. You're going to log in, spend 5 minutes, make some money, log out. I think in that regard, skinning is going to be pretty good. Tailoring. The last one, the final one. Where do we think tailoring goes? Tailoring has undergone... Tailoring has been the hardest profession to test. Tailoring's been really difficult to test for many reasons. It was basically broken for most of the beta. It makes bags. There's something new with tailoring that a lot of people may not be aware of, and it's that tailors are the only people who gather cloth. The only people that gather cloth. Miners get a little bit of it, but tailors predominantly, you have to be a tailor to find cloth out in the open world. Which should, in theory, mean the cloth ends up being a lot more valuable than what it ever has been. Let's look at tailoring real quick. I'm thinking here. I'm thinking here, but it's very possibly going to be S tier. It's very possibly going to be S tier. I don't think it's better than Alchemy. Tailoring, I think, is very possibly going to be S tier, and I'm going to try and justify that now. Let's look at tailoring real fast. So tailoring has... One, it has unraveling. Unraveling is a bit of a mystery in and of itself to most people, and choosing to become good at unraveling is an entire spec you could go in to deep detail with by itself. You take the basic cloth, which, as we've already said, can only be acquired by tailors. You take this basic cloth and you unravel it into spools, and then those spools are then made into things like your bolts. So there's an entire market, an entire industry surrounding unraveling, which has a lot of potential. Bolts, cooldown, alt army, bolts, again. It was profitable throughout the entire Dragonflight to have this on alts. Log in, craft a few stuff, log out, sell it, come back 3 days later, do the same again. There's a lot of potential there. Of course, the same as blacksmiths, the same as leatherworkers, you're making the cloth gear. Mages, warlocks, priests. Gotta be some good money to be had here, even if you go the work order route. You are then simultaneously making optional crafting reagents. You're making the embellishments. You also are making enchants. The finishing reagents. You are making enchants in terms of spell threads. Tailoring has a little bit of everything. It's going to be really hard to not make a bunch of gold with tailoring. Not to mention, tailors also make a bunch of profession gear. It has everything. It literally has a little bit of everything and provides so many people. And this is before I've even spoke about bags. It allows many tailors to go in many different routes, and all of them are going to be able to make money. Bags, every single profession now has its own unique profession bag that gives you a little bit of a bonus. So the Herbalism one here, the cooldown on your overload, sorry, the mining one, the cooldown of your overload is reduced when mining. There is a cooldown of that sharpen your knife, that skinning ability I mentioned a minute ago. Tailors produce these bags, and who remembers hex weave bags all the way from back in Warlords of Draenor? And who is still selling those hex weave bags today? You know why they sell? Because they're purple. It's really stupid, but purple bags seem to be best sellers forever. So I not only think that tailors are going to see the advantage of these crafted bags short term, I think they're also going to see the advantage of these literally many years into the future as well. It's going to take you an awful long time to get them. As a tailor, you might need to level a few tailors to get them, but purple bags always win. Yeah, I'm pretty safe in saying, boys and girls, tailoring is S. It doesn't beat Alchemy, unfortunately. The reason it doesn't beat Alchemy is because Alchemy is player power all day long, and it always has been. Alchemy's always been like crazy good. You keep up to date with your alchemist, you will always print gold. It's a license to print gold if you know what you're doing with it. So there we go. There we go, boys and girls. That is my tier list for the professions going into the War Within. Agree with me? Disagree with me? Leave your comments down below. I will have a little bit of a look through them, and I will delete any I disagree with, and I'll favourite any that I agree with. No, of course I wouldn't do that. That would be mean. That would be gross. But leave me your comments all the same. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are new around here, consider subscribing. Thank you all to Team YouTube and Team Twitch as we have recorded this live. Come check us out on the live streams if you wish. But yeah, have a wonderful War Within, and I'll see you all next time, boys and girls. Have a good one. Peace.